Welcome to Revlog, where today we're going to do our best Dave Ramsey impersonation. Are you ready? Can you
Show me the cash?
Yeah, that's right.
Right here.
Who's on your heart tonight? That's Delilah. I'm sorry.
Delilah.
No.
Delilah.
That's right.
That's great.
Today's proverb, we have a singular verse again. It is the one that Dave Ramsey has made famous. The borrower is slave to the lender. And we've talked a little bit before about Dave Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
I will say with him, we have to be careful. You can go to extremes. Sometimes people go to extremes. But I do want to say publicly, I think the best thing Amy and I ever did for our marriage was go through Dave Ramsey.
You just stole my thunder.
Yeah, is that right? Is that well? Tell me your experience with that.
I mean, I remember distinctly. We sat down the first year of our marriage, and we had a financial planner and somebody that my dad had used, or a company that, and so like, we're gonna do this right. And he came in and sat down with us, and he looked at April and said, "You need to keep him around for a while because right now he's worth more alive than dead. He's got to work off all this debt that he's brought into the marriage." And I had all school debt, I had all kind car debt,
right.
I had debt. And we started our marriage pretty far in debt, and it was all that I had brought in. Mm-hmm. And so I mean I felt that was a heavy burden, and we got after it. We came here in 2003, and they started a Dave Ramsey program, and we were still paying off lots of school debt, and we got after it. I mean,
wow.
We got after it, and within 18 months, completely debt-free, and we have lived that way for...
Praise the Lord, yeah.
It is amazing.
And it makes a huge difference
oh,
in
my
your marriage.
goodness. It just the disagreements that we have are not about money.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah, and for us, yeah, it was a great thing for us. A couple of years into our marriage, actually, my parents sent it to us. They had been through it at their church, and really, it was fantastic. And I talk about money with every premarital counseling session that I do, because money generally is the primary cause of divorce. Is fighting over money between couples, and how that ends up being a lack of trust in one another. And so we do talk about that together in premarital counseling. So I'm grateful for those. Bryan, you got any Dave Ramsey stories you want to share?
I don't. I've never been through a Dave Ramsey course. I think all that is great, but not for me. But no, I've just never.
Those original AT&T stocks that you had from '08 or so.
My savings bonds are about to mature, but no. I've been through other trainings, and programs and stuff like that. But I remember we started our marriage. We had no debt at all, and we built all of our debt up after we married. And so, no, I feel like we just sort of stumbled and bumbled our way through. Neither of us are financial gurus, my wife nor I. And, my wife did all the bills for a while. I did all the bills for a while. And, we've just tried a lot of different things. And we've had experiences that we thought, oh, we'll never do that again, or we'll rebuild from that, and it's been more of a meandering course for us. But all of that for us has the good and the bad, really, especially the bad, probably, has shaped what we understand from this scripture, which is, what are you after? What are you looking for? Mm-hmm. And what is the price that is going to extract from you? And even though it's interesting, there's a little bit of a paradox, because Jesus gives these parables about a man finding a pearl of great price, in a field, and he goes out and sells all he has to buy that. That's a pretty big price. Yeah. But the thing is, it's nothing compared to the value and the security that you find here. And most of what we chase after is a lessening of security. We leverage greater security for lesser security, and it's kind of a backwards way,
Absolutely.
that we can get into, and I've certainly been down that road.
Yeah, and I think that's the message of Proverbs, because a number of places in Proverbs we have come to conversations about money and a proper perspective of how we view money in the hierarchy of life. And this is another reminder, and as you quoted Jesus there, that there's something greater, and there is a proper way to use money and think about money that we often get off track in the flesh. So, Aaron, as you read this, I mean, what was your thought here in this verse?
The whole slave to the lender is such an incredible thing. I mean, right now we are thinking about financial aid and college and college
For
expense
your oldest,
for my
working
oldest,
on
right?
college, yeah.
And I mean it's criminal. I mean the
cost.
Yes, what it costs to send a kid to school, and this is exactly what we're talking about the return on investment. And sometimes you need to spend some money for and because of what you're investing in will reap greater rewards.
Yeah.
And to some extent college is certainly that. I mean you're investing in your child, but at some point it becomes so overwhelming, and knowing to burden our child with debt and,
Right.
and just how wise is that, knowing my own journey, what I brought to my marriage, and just as you send a kid to adulthood to say go get them, and then just and knowing what that feels like to know that you owe, and it's such it's strangling, and there's so much psychological things that happen. I mean, regardless of the payments that you're making, and they feel like you're always making, just that it occupies so much of your mental bandwidth to say, I've got to do this for so long in order to not just get ahead, but get out of a hole. And that's not what we're designed to do. To be always behind this kind of burden. And I mean, this is where the Huftys are right now. We are, what is wise for our daughter, what is wise for our family, and the last thing we want to do is just straddle her with, I think of A Christmas Carol, and as Marley the ghost comes through the wall, he's shackled with these the burdens of all the poor decisions that he has made that have been about acquiring wealth but that have not been about him investing in the business of mankind and for us the kingdom business that we are called to do. So
Amen. So Bryan, I think you've already given us your question. I'm going to ask you again.
So do not ask me again.
What is your question from this text?
Well, I do. Let me ask it in another way.
Okay, ask it in another way. There you go.
Let me approach this in another way. You got a minute? No, I would say I think it's really good. Before I do that, let me just say, hang on. One side little note. You mentioned higher education and all that. I have a friend who teaches at Baylor who says that it is higher education, the cost of higher education is actually immoral. I mean, he says it's a moral stain on our society.
Wow.
And he said it's not sustainable. It isn't. The current system is not sustainable. That's what he says.
I
But
agree.
what does he know?
I agree.
He's just working away. He's
So
got tenure, so he can say anything he wants.
So is your question, how do we overthrow the university system?
Yes, it starts here. Anyway, I think a good question for any individual or household to ask is, what are we doing? What are we doing? And just, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to buy a house, or we're trying to buy a car, or we're trying to go to school. But then you drill down on that. Well, why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What? And you just keep drilling down. What are you at? What are you after?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
good.
question.
Yeah, well done. Aaron, what was your question of the text?
How am I paying for college for my daughter?
That's up to the minute, isn't it?
This is as current as
Are we going to put a hotline number at the bottom of the screen?
And what does the tote board say?
We're going to have a telethon to pay for Rachel's.
We need
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis.
I think so much of it is born out of what Bryan just said. It's, we approach this very much like this is what I did. This is I'm bringing to the table what I had to do to go to college and so I'm using that schema, that mindset. But to what end?
Yeah.
Just because we're in this rut of this is how things are done,
Right.
does not
Yes.
mean that this is the best path forward for my daughter, for us in general. So it's
Yep.
that are we constantly evaluating money? Are we constantly evaluating anything to say, okay, we obviously know the path that we have trod before. Did it get us forward? Did it really help us? And if it didn't, then why would we do that to our children? Why would we do that again? The return on investment is something. Is the cost that we're paying going to bear
Right.
this pearl of great price?
Right.
Or is it just going to put us further back
Right.
and cause more heartache?
Yeah.
That's like
absolutely.
7 questions, but
Yeah.
the paying for my daughter's education is number 1.
We would love to hear your thoughts on Proverbs 22:7. If you would comment below.